And I'm very glad I could make to get this meeting today. Just I came back, feel too important to tell us our concern. So I try to remember when I actually this is the 10th year of anniversary of Jewish sports. Also, this year is a 10 years anniversary for myself. I became monk in Sri Lanka, 1978. And after that, I came to this country for participation of longest walk, which Native American organized cross-country walk from San Francisco to DC. That is my main reason to came to this country for participation for that. Even before, I didn't know anything about Rocky Flats. And I clearly remember some of you from True Sports came visit Longest Walk, and they came to like a Japanese camp. And when we reached to DC, like Patrick and other people from True Sports, they told me about Rocky Flats. So I felt I should go, I should come. And I attend August 6th and 9th demonstration here. And I finally decided this is my base. So since that, your action or your idea encouraged to me to do my mission as a monk. Or anytime you do take action for Rocky Flats, each time reminds me what I have to do with you. Because I am Japanese, so I have a mission to tell about nuclear war. All about. Also, you are American, so you have a mission to change this country toward a peaceful world.
Good evening. It's wonderful and an honor to be here, and great to see everyone. And welcome, Dan. Good to see you. This was written in Bobby Louise Hawkins' class last summer at Europa, right around the Iran-Contra hearings, and the assignment was to come up with a diatribe, an angry poem. Oh, you loathsome TV patriarchs, obsolete senators, councilmen, House of Reps, lie of the land, admirals, lieutenant, political Pentecostals, colonel, attorney generals, shut off! Ye lily-livered judges, big wheels of my world, hardly a woman amongst you. I'll make your semen dry up, your genitalia will wither in the wind. fears, hopes and fears, you have them, you had them. I won't say no, you have them. I will say it plainly, you had them, I had them. Hopes and fears, hopes and fears, hopes and fears, you have them. Wake in the morning, fear the clock, the day, I had it. Wake in the afternoon, fear the clock, quiet, I had it. Fear the night, noise, street, I have it. Person beating his body against a building, I saw it. Fear, he had it, she has it. Hopes and fears, you have them. All the bodies in morning light, they have it. Wake in the morning, fear the clock, the day, the job. Another person was there, he had it. Wake in the afternoon, she was gone, he had it. Two men, one had it. Two other men, both had it. Fear, they had it. Two women had fear of being alone. She won't walk down the street alone or say goodbye. Then her friend needed to be talking constantly. Hopes were had by all for good weather to go apple picking. Fear, the radio, the forecast, the death, the man had it. Fear you might get hurt. Back off, start again, go home. I have them, hopes and fears, I have them. Hope to be safe, fear to be sick, injured, isolated. Hope to be in a well-heated place, a place with light. Another person in the room, I want to know her, I want her. Hopes and fears, I want you. I don't have you, but I have hope. Fear you will quit my sight. Fear you'll no more be present in my world. I don't have you, but I have fear. Fear, I have it. Do you? Do you have it? Fear, what is it? Fear, who is it? If it isn't you, it may be fear. Fear, I'm not here when I should be her. Wake in the afternoon, the clock, the telephone, the doorbell. Who is it? Who are they? Are they fixing something up there? Someone said a name, sounded like Annister Honorful, raining on the roof. Fear, the summer solstice, a day like no other. I have it. I had it then, yes. No, it won't happen again, fear like that. I hope to see you, and then I hope to see you or be seen by you in the room of wonderful paintings. I painted myself this way out of fear. Presentable hope in the night. I went out often. I went out hoping to see something reminding me of you. Yes, I had it, and it was distinct. It was a thin hope. Someone was an outsider, but I knew the name, and he shouted my name to scare me, to say, I know you. I won't be afraid. Outsider on the roof a week ago, looking, he said, for a key. Are you succeeding in finding a home? You look rich, all right. You look rich out of fear. Hoping to be seen outside, all of her attitudes. Fear to be taken apart with verbs and nouns and adjectives. Fearing to miss one event, never to be repeated again. Could that be? Dare we say that? Hope he survives like the others. I read about the MX missile. It was designed to make you fierce and hopeful. But listen, are you listening? It scares us. I said it is a fear made and fear born, like a monster it is always being. Everyone is saying this over and over out of fear and hope to change the mind, change the plan, the instrument of this terrible darkness. It is that simple fear again, to be hope. I hope so. I certainly hope so.
I'm supposed to review in a few minutes the last 10 years of the arms race and opposition to it. Can you hear me? All right? Yeah. How would that go? We were going great in 1978, really, thanks to Rocky Flats. I think we had the Rocky Mountain News, remember, in November, at the end of our trial period. Whatever you think of these protesters and what they did, one truth is clear: Rocky Flats must go. Editorial in the Rocky Mountain News in November of '78. And then we were moving pretty well, at which point, in 79, 80, with the loss of the Shah of Iran and the loss of Nicaragua to Carter, the man who came in to abolish nuclear weapons, as he said, and I think believed that, in fact, then felt David Rockefeller deserting him, moving over to Bush and later to Reagan, shifted to an arms race, used at the end of that year, an excuse for what he'd been building up all year in the arms race, the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. And we, in the anti-nuclear movement, which for its first year was doing enormously better than the anti-Vietnam movement had done, was hit by a tidal wave that lasted for years. And really, as you'll remember now, those who were with it, for the next couple of years, we were aware our movement was growing. And the opposition was growing so infinitely larger than we were, that we were simply swamped and rolled over. I can switch to some good news very fast to give you a little contrast of now and then. When we had 7 Democratic,
Somebody in charge of the mic?
okay, this is good. We just had 7 Democratic candidates, a considerable range of neoliberals and not very liberals in the race, every one of which promised us a comprehensive test ban if we came into office. The moratorium, both Dukakis and Jackson, both, the remaining people here, are pledged to end testing the day they get into office. One of them gets into office, maybe they'll both get into office. And if we're lucky. And to call on the Soviets to join them. Nobody doubts at this point in history that the Soviets will join that immediately. It used to be that when we called for a test ban, those of us who were calling for a test ban, the question would be, what makes you think the Soviets will join? And the answer could only be, we don't know, let's find out. Let's test the Russians instead of testing weapons. But when the Russians, when the Soviets stopped testing for 6 months and extended it twice, ended up no testing for 18 months, even the hardcore right-wing Republicans in Congress no longer use that argument. They know that when Congress stops testing the money for testing, or a president does it, the Soviets will join that. And the arms race will be over for the future of these new weapons. So we're that close to it. We're also in a situation where the House has 3 times now voted to end all funding for nuclear testing if the Soviets are not testing. In other words, after a certain date, 30 days away, if the Soviets are not testing as of that date, and they would not be, everybody knows, there will be no money for testing. The House has passed that vote by large majorities 3 times now. How many people here in this audience knew that? Look at the lights. Well, that's too bad, isn't it? Because we don't know what some of our greatest victories are. That is not in a way a victory yet, because the Senate has voted only on it once, may or may not vote this year, and got only 35 votes because they didn't want to pull the rug out just before a summit and so forth. So that's not law yet. But actually, the House and Senate have ended for the last, I've forgotten exactly how long, maybe 4 years, at least 3 years, the most dangerous testing that could be done, the most dangerous part of the SDI program, anti-satellite testing, the close-up technology that would be extremely destabilizing, that could sweep the sky clear of command and control satellites, tempt each side to launch on warning, this sort of thing. False alarms are possible and so forth. Very dangerous technology has been stopped on both sides as follows. The Soviets declared a moratorium, said we will not test unless the U.S. does. The U.S. continued testing for a while. Then the U.S. Congress, because the Soviets were not testing, about 4 years ago, cut off money for testing so long as the Soviets did not test. That was for 6 months. At the end of the there was no testing then for 6 months. At the end of the 6 months, that expired, and Congress did permit about 2 more tests to happen, and then cut off the money again. And except for that, an interval of a matter of months, there have been no tests, I believe, for the last 3 years. Neither side has tested anti-satellite weapons, although Reagan, and specifically Perot when he was in, tried constantly to change that with great pressure. It was cut off, the money was cut off. Again, how many people knew that? I'll bet it's a smaller number. How many knew that? Raise your hands. This is an actual effect of the anti-nuclear movement, the freeze movement. You notice a little problem in our own information. This is a relatively hardcore group here, right? Pretty well informed. But I'm not surprised. That's why I asked the question. We as a movement are not even aware of the enormous. That is a very enormous impact. This afternoon I began just listening for myself what other instances there were of that, thinking there might be 1 or 2. I found there were 6 or 7 cases now of major import in which the House and Senate have cut off funding for various things. A ceiling on the MX at 50. Carter wanted 200, Reagan wants 100, and is still trying to get 100 or 150. They covered themselves with shame in the Congress by voting for 50. Some of us were at Vandenberg when trying to stop the first test. Bill Dobb was there. Maybe some, who was that? Else was at Vandenberg? 4 people. We saw, that was a hard day. We saw at the end of our day having been arrested a couple miles from the ground zero, from the launch, who saw the MX go off, which was, everybody was crying out. Madly. We'd been on the thing all night, we'd been spread eagle on the ground, the dogs actually got us for an hour, dogs sniffing us over sniffing. But we felt we delayed the test, and we were really quite exuberant about that. And because this was the MX, this is the ultimate first strike weapon, a vulnerable first strike weapon, a lightning rod to attack, a weapon that makes us more dangerous the day it is deployed. This was the first test. A lot of people there thought that had to be stopped. And we had the experience then of feeling we delayed it. They delayed it till late in the afternoon. They made us walk out on the base several miles and invite us out for the through the rain. And as we got to the front gate, a cameraman said, "We just got word they're about to test this thing." And I wasn't going to tell this story, but it's a good audience for it. This is the bad side. Oh, you want to? Okay. You want to go into the rest of the 10 years? No story. Not the story. The point is, there is a ceiling on NX testing, thanks to the Congress. There is, as I say, the ASAP cutoff. The Waldman Amendment, which cut off funds for the countries some years ago, did not cut off funds to the countries. The president went ahead and ignored it. As a result of which, well, I would have said he was facing impeachment, which turns out not to be the case, but a lot of his people are facing jail, and two results in our sphere are coming immediately from that. Without the exposure that he had broken the law when it was exposed, by diverting funds to the countries. Without that exposure, which came, and there wouldn't have been the case had there not been a law. It was an almost unprecedented law. Without the law that he was led to break, there would not have been the pressure on him to get the INF agreement. I say this as an analyst of the situation. I'm absolutely confident that if you follow the INF negotiations, there was no chance the president would have gone for the deal he did, his own zero option, which he didn't want, except that he had to distract attention from the embarrassment he was in, from the fact that he'd just been found breaking the law, the Waldman Amendment. Secondly, as a direct result of grassroots pressure and lobbying, and against not only the president, but against House leadership led by Jim Wright. Jim Wright's bill sending money to the countries for humanitarian purposes, to a fighting force without a ceasefire, committing terrorism inside Nicaragua. That was their humanitarian aid that the Democrats proposed to send. That was voted down. Jim Wright, not only Wright, but the most liberal people in Congress, some of them, Mike Lowry of Washington, Barney Frank, George Miller, as liberal people, left liberal as you can find in Congress, had been persuaded that if we didn't vote for this, Congress would definitely go for a Republican package that would be even worse, that would have military aid in it. And I got a letter from them, as did a lot of people, saying in underlined words to the peace community, you must back us on this. There is no choice, underlined, there is no choice. They're necessity defense, right? For this crime of sending material down to this terrorist group. Because the alternative is worse. This is a lesser evil, you've got to vote for it. And when that word went out, the grassroots that had been organized by Pledge of Resistance and other people, Witness for Peace and all those people, spontaneously, with no even time for any coordinating from Washington, called into their congressman in a way that they'd not seen since the Saturday Night Massacre, just spontaneously. And they said, what do you mean? What do you think you're doing? How can you possibly be voting for this? Sophisticated, moderate, reasonable compromise and so forth. It was voted down. And I must say that I and the other people who had lobbied for that, but with qualms, feeling maybe it's going to be worse, thought that the result was going to be almost immediately, they warned us, a Republican bill that would be worse. But as Barbara Boxer put it, having been phoned by Brian Wilson the day before, said, I just couldn't say yes to that package. I could not do it. She said, even though I was worried. And what was the result? Brian Wilson was invited down to Nicaragua by chance on the day before the SAPOA negotiations came. He went with Mr. Stockerson, Margaret Gibson, a couple of, to SAPOA at the invitation of Ortega, with no expectation anything was coming from those negotiations. And as you know, the Contras made a deal at that thing, which they may be talked out of yet by Abrams. The war may go on, it may go over, or the war may be ended. If the war was ended, it will be, everybody said, because of the vote down of that thing, which was crucially by a grassroots revolt against the liberal compromise, spurred by the broadest movement of civil disobedience that we've seen, bigger than Vietnam, broader than Vietnam on the whole, against the Nicaraguan War, and directly stimulated by the anti-nuclear movement and the anti-nuclear power movement which had come before, and the European. All of these had fed into each other. According to Ortega, who told Brian Wilson, he said, Calero was demoralized by that vote. Both the Nicaraguans, Abrams, by the way, and by what was happening to Noriega possibly too. He's another dope dealer, you know, watching what happened to CIA dope. And he remembered that he didn't want to work for the Americans as much anymore. Maybe he wants to live in a country with no extradition treaty, I think, in Nicaragua. But in any case, he said he was demoralized by that vote. Abrams said the same, and the Sandinistas all thought the second vote was absolutely crucial. I'm emphasizing that as an example of where the grassroots movement, of which civil disobedience has been a crucial part, had an immediate effect of a kind, frankly, that no one could have foreseen, no one could have bet on, but it happened. Illustrating, we take 1.5 more minutes, illustrating a principle line that I learned, I think, some years ago, which was, there are 100 doors to push on. There is no way to know which one is going to open. You push on all of them, on the lobbying, on the letter writing, on this action, on that action. Don't knock the other person's action if it's nonviolent. Let them do it even if it doesn't seem too promising, because you cannot predict which one will do it. I can give several other examples of the way that's worked. But I was asked today by the Rocky Mountain News, have you learned in the last 10 years, what have you learned? She said, she was quite friendly too. She said, have you learned to be, well, let's say, more realistic? I said, you know, frankly, there are people who believe that you can run this arms race indefinitely and the human species will survive it. I don't think that's too realistic. I think that's childishly naive. And that's all every president we've had in the last few years. So I think we're doing realistic work, but not because we think we're sure we're going to win or ever thought there was a high chance. I said, my realism, as I see it, is that I think we have a chance. It's a small chance, but it's a real chance, and that's my optimism. And that hasn't changed. I said, it is the case, the arms race, the Nicaraguan War may have been ended the way the Vietnam War was ended, by Congress cutting off the money. It's the only way that war would ever have been ended. It may have ended now, if not now, we'll do it later. We will do it. I said, I believe that's the only way the arms race will ever be ended. Congress, as I just told you, I could give some other examples, has been, in fact, moving toward cutting off funds for this and that. We have the Democratic candidates now responding only to grassroots. Dukakis would never have gotten this from his Harvard Kennedy School people, advisors, but who know that the votes are there for saying, end the arms race. I said, yes, it's true, the arms race is still going. The D5, the Trident II, the Stealth, the cruise missiles are all on track. But there are people on those tracks. They have been there every day for 10 years, and we are going to stop it.
About 100 people have come into town for this reunion this weekend from all over the country, from San Francisco, from Massachusetts, from New York, and one of them is here, who came in just a couple days ago from Manhattan, Glenn Dorsey.
In 1978, in April of 1978, I had two great privileges. One was to sit on the tracks at Rocky Flats with the greatest bunch of people every day since then I've thought about these people, and it's wonderful to be back with them again, although on a certain level, I think I've never left. And the second was to study poetry at the Jack Kerouac School of Disembodied Poets. Really, the two founders of that school, Ginsberg and Waldman, my connection with them was going up to them at one point and saying, look, we need money, we need additional support on the tracks, we have to do fundraisers, will you help? And whatever the situation was over the years, and especially initially, it was always yes, yes, yes. Besides occupying the tracks and getting arrested, they showed up at every reading, they brought all their friends, and they have a great bunch of friends, William Burroughs, Gregory Corson, on and on and on. And they were always there. It was just consistent support. And it was great as a media event, and it was great to hear their wisdom and their poetry. So I feel very honored to introduce them tonight, first and Waldman.
I think that's fine. Good evening. It's wonderful and an honor to be here, and great to see everyone. And welcome, Dan. Good to see you. This was written in Bobby Louise Hawkins' class last summer at Europa, right around the Iran Contra hearings, and the assignment was to come up with a diatribe, an angry poem. Oh, you loathsome TV patriarchs, obsolete senators, councilmen, House of Reps, lie of the land, admirals, lieutenant, political Pentecostals, colonel, attorney generals, shut off, ye lily-livered judges. Big wheels of my world, hardly a woman amongst you. I'll make your semen dry up, your genitalia will wither in the wind. Hopes and fears, hopes and fears, you have them, you had them. Hopes and fears, you have them, you had them. I won't say no, you have them. I will say it plainly, you had them, I had them. Hopes and fears, hopes and fears, hopes and fears, you have them. Wake in the morning, fear the clock, the day, I had it. Wake in the afternoon, fear the clock, quiet, I had it. Fear the night, noise, street, I have it. Person beating his body against a building, I saw it. Fear, he had it, she has it. Hopes and fears, you have them. All the bodies in morning light, they have it. Wake in the morning, fear the clock, the day, the job. Another person was there, he had it. Wake in the afternoon, she was gone, he had it. Two men, one had it. Two other men, both had it. Fear, they had it. Two women had fear of being alone. She won't walk down the street alone or say goodbye. Then her friend needed to be talking constantly. Hopes were had by all for good weather to go apple picking. Fear, the radio, the forecast, the death, the man had it. Fear you might get hurt. Back off, start again, go home. I have them, hopes and fears, I have them. Hope to be safe, fear to be sick, injured, isolated. Hope to be in a well-heated place, a place with light. Another person in the room, I want to know her. I want her, hopes and fears, I want you. I don't have you, but I have hope. Fear you will quit my sight. Fear you'll no more be present in my world. I don't have you, but I have fear. Fear, I have it. Do you? Do you have it? Fear, what is it? Fear, who is it? If it isn't you, it may be fear. Fear, I'm not here when I should be her. Wake in the afternoon, the clock, the telephone, the doorbell. Who is it? Who are they? Are they fixing something up there? Someone said a name, sounded like Annister Honorful, raining on the roof. Fear, the summer solstice, a day like no other. I have it. I had it then, yes. No, it won't happen again, fear like that.
I hope to see you, and then I hope to see you or be seen by you in the room of wonderful paintings. I painted myself this way out of fear. Presentable hope in the night. I went out often. I went out hoping to see something reminding me of you. Yes, I had it, and it was distinct. It was a thin hope. Someone was an outsider, but I knew the name, and he shouted my name to scare me, to say, I know you. I won't be afraid. Outsider on the roof a week ago, looking, he said, for a key. Are you succeeding in finding a home? You look rich, all right. You look rich out of fear. Hoping to be seen outside, all of her attitudes. Fear to be taken apart with verbs and nouns and adjectives. Fearing to miss one event, never to be repeated again. Could that be? Dare we say that? Hope he survives like the others. I read about the MX missile. It was designed to make you fierce and hopeful. But listen, are you listening? It scares us. I said it is a fear made and fear born, like the monster it is always being. Everyone is saying this over and over out of fear and hope to change the mind, change the plan, the instrument of this terrible darkness. It is that simple fear again, to be hope. I hope so. I certainly hope so. Artemis, I pray you are always above me, imperial ruler of the stars, with your silver new moon bow, arrows swift as science. You strike trees dead, fell a wild hind, and finally a city of unjust men. I dreamt last night of warring Jerusalem, chaste sprite, spicy nymph, wounding witch, any guise you wish, no hesitation, Dakini of incantation. Command your spike deep in my heart, so I may ride, hunt, speak, shine, midwife your sting. This is a poem by a Nicaraguan poet, Christian Santos, and she was my host in Nicaragua. And this is a translation by Fred Judson, which I worked on a bit. And this was written probably about 2 years ago. I visited her last January. Christian Santos. So you think this war is our fault? So you think this war is our fault? You think it's easy for us to build hospitals and schools, to fill the warehouses with corn, beans, and rice, to teach our people to the very last one to read? You think just because we don't like the Guardias Somocistas, we send our sons to the mountains to hunt and kill them? That's what you think when you say, it's you Sandinistas who are shitting up the country. You think it's easy to see my son go out the door with his rucksack full of letters from his friends, from his girl, his rucksack full of bullets. Easy to see him leave with his AK over his shoulder. I can see from the way he carries it how familiar it is to him. You think it's easy after he's been here on a 5-day pass and I was beginning to get used to the pleasure of having him around to say, well, love, take it easy. And my son turns profile against the light and gives me a sweet kiss that becomes a part of my cheek because I know where he is going. He's going to war to face thousands of trained and fattened Guardia Somocistas. They've got new military equipment, blessed and delivered with love, and on behalf of love to save Latin America from communism, but above all, to save the vulnerable frontiers of the United States of America, supplied with love, and on behalf of love, the planes, the helicopters, the aircraft carriers, the tank transports by the leader, impeccable in suit and hairdo on TV, the movie star, bright, knowing this earth water globe, the atmosphere and space, Ronald Reagan. And there come those brothers of yours, the Guardias, and your Marines in blue uniforms shining on our Gulf of Fonseca to burn our stores of corn, rice, and beans, our schools, our daycare centers, killing our babies, our teachers, nurses, and technicians, destroying houses in the mountains and tractors with your bombs. You think it's easy to hold my son tight, so tightly that my skin hurts afterwards. Goodbye, my boy. Come back soon, mi chocoyito. I know that if they take him alive, they'll take out his eyes and give them to the dogs, so the dogs will eat them. Or they'll cut him into pieces like Grandpa Raphael. You remember they said his blood splattered on the tyrant's jacket. Or they'll make him eat his bloody vomit like they made Grandpa Samuel eat his before he died. You think it's easy for me to adjust his olive green sombrerito and smile at him when my son climbs into the truck full of other boys just as brave as my Joditito, my son. All the boys smile and answer my wave. It seems those sons of mine are like geese on the river. When the truck starts off, I cry, I wail, left alone with my hand upraised. Christian Santos. Eyes in all heads to be looked out of. Formed a new beast today, eye of hawk, heart of lion, radar of bat. Crossed the psychic threshold, the same old, old, old set of eyes. So many layers in one way of working, and you, the other, you open every one of them. You make me exist, cold by the doorway, chipper when we don't miss a beat, despondent for heartbreak's sake. I am the weather when it breaks and destroys. Stroke my sleeping fur, appease me, or I'll deracinate your calm. My other has shown his many face, weak, selfish, you see him around women. I am the idiot too, but will measure myself against the most beautiful in you, and fail or not, the I will come out of joint to be destroyed. I sign on the line for this thinking of Cambodia, devastated continuously by war. The lightning crackles over my heads and turns to angry pellets. Ariadne of Naxos turns her head to attack the aria and floats above Libyan headlines, crossing the line of death. Someone is waiting for me. Someone is approaching from the opposite direction. I can summon him up. I'll pull off his mask. I got this power when I wasn't looking. Between two moments, I fell out of into what was like a noise, a hum of colored seed syllables that jump on wavelengths and charge down to the basement to the colored rooms, which only exist to thinking of feeding Nicaragua. I promise to light more fires till death. This is the arrogant voice of a thirsty traveler who came through centuries to meet you, standing in the feeble posture of the attention position. Yours in the ranks of the phalanx appearing, now on the tarmac outside. Oh, get in line. Pick up the weapons, the branches and brushes, the ankhs, the heart sutras, the wheels of time, the precious jewels, the precious ministers, the precious speech. The oppressed and the oppressor can meet at last. And when I heard my old poetry teacher speak, it was like the voice of rain. And I received it always in the guise of earth. Not a guise, but gauze that keeps us from each other. Because we are two, me up against the world of you, alone, alone, separate, separate, popped into this illusion to clarify speech, into this speech, clarify speech. I'm here, too many eyes in one head. I see, I was there, I was never there. Eyes in all the heads to be looked out of. No hierarchies, but natural ones, nor infinite, Charles Olson, in the sense of eternal. No such many as mass. There are only eyes in all heads to be looked out of. Windows on terror, windows on lovemaking, windows on any battlefield, windows on the stars. The gate to the temple is a monstrous roar. I'll aim this at myself and be it a trajectory clean to the force of things. Look at me pass under and bow. I bow to the goddess of texture. I bow to the goddess of thunder and electricity. I bow to the goddess of rock, of coral. I bow to the goddess of desire and selfless love. I see this is not arguable as theory. It is refutable. But in the sense I proclaim, I see. You can cut me back and I'll grow back on you. Not a curse. This is the way it is. Proclaiming, I see. And in this cutting room, cut the root, torment, cut sorrow, long way down, cut like chill to bone, break off all talk, cut sustaining chord, long way back, cut root thought, cut time, don't cling, cut light, cut it out, her cut-up manner slays me, don't fixate on that one, cut heart, but, and through you and into you, but I'm crazy Miss Linda Longcake, crazy Miss Linda Longcake, please come to a white courtesy phone, cut one hell of a ride, say, stop, cut the fool of you, cut the tooth of you, cut the truth, whatever the version, cut the truth and need of you, cut the Soviet probes, move on from Venus, cut the quick of you, clear of decisions, cut defense budget, blocking oxygen, cut historical action, personal failings, cut ignition of guts in abdomen, cut animal lassitude, cut carnal money, cut in a hoarse, chewed voice, cut in the voice of a toothless hag, cut in the voice of I was a girl, cut in the voice of Aphrodite in arms, cut in the voice of one possessed, cut in the voice of a small one breathing through the eye of a needle, cut. One last piece, this was written with read by.
She comes back.
Waking lyric. I am waking, I've been dreaming, now it's morning, birds are singing, I, ing, I am thinking, so many people, where did they come from? From the sun, carrying water, carrying briefcase, carrying wonder from the sun, warm sun. How many people, other than I am, other than she is, I've been dreaming, now I'm waking. So many people, jigsaw puzzle, eyes and cheekbones, men and women, children in the sun, rising from rooftops, rising in basements, walking on ladders, changing expressions with the sun, warm sun. So many passions, I am dreaming, so many people in the sun, warm sun.
Mr. Allen Ginsberg.
No, that's good. I think this is all right. What I'm going to do is read backward in time, beginning with a song from 2 years ago from Poland. I was with a friend, musician, Stephen Taylor, working with Solidarity in Warsaw and Krakow. And on the way back from Warsaw Airport, we wrote a song together after meeting some long-haired hippie communards who lived in Poland, making drums, having families, extended family, near the Russian border, hearing their gossip about Middle European nuclear problems. So this is called Europe, Who Knows? All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? Asphodels fine, but next year, what comes with the rose? Cabbage smells good, but depends which way the wind blows. All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? Wormwood skies will poison the sea, revelation. From Oslo to Athens, black clouds have enlightened the nations. Cesium mushrooms and milk may mutate the creation. All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? Woke up in Poland, make-believe just wilted down. Not a cloud in the sky, inexplicably cold on the ground. Kids in the yard were playing without any clothes. All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? Phoned up the doctor, official reply, never mind. Same afternoon, suggested we take iodine. 3 days later, Chernobyl's error disclosed. All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? Slaughtered the reindeer in Lapland, Laps on the dole. Camembert radioactive in Europe, Camembert radioactive in Zurich, the gold. In the Cotswolds of England, all the sheep markets were closed. All over Europe, people are saying, who knows, who knows? If a liter of water's one X-ray in Washington state, then in milk bars of Minsk, what does it cost a milkshake? Big apples this year, we still have to eat up what grows. If we didn't eat poison, we'd starve, brother, everyone knows. In 1978, July 13th and 14th, overnight, I was up all night, interested in plutonium, and wrote a poem called Plutonian Ode. How many are familiar with that text here? And how many are not? Can you raise your hand? Good, so I'll read that. Glenn Dorskin came, I stayed up all night writing the poem, inspired by an anecdote or information Gregory Corso told me, which was that the half-life of plutonium is 24,000 years, and that's the same as the great Platonic year. 2,000 years of Pisces, 2,000 years of Aquarius, 2,000 for each of the 12 signs of the zodiac. The whole cycle is 24,000 years, which is the same as the half-life of plutonium. So that gives some kind of poetic scope for the problem of waste disposal. Then I was up all night writing, real inspired. Then Glenn Dorskin came by and said, did you say you wanted to do some action at Rocky Flats? There's a train supposed to come out this morning if you want to go out on the tracks and sit. And so that led to my first arrest at Rocky Flats, and a really interesting situation where we tried to apply meditation practice on the tracks. So Plutonian Ode. What new element before us, unborn in nature? Is there a new thing under the sun? At last, inquisitive Whitman, a modern epic, detonative, scientific theme, first penned, unmindful, by Dr. Seaborg, with poisonous hand, named for Death's planet through the seas beyond Uranus, whose phonic ore fathers this magma-tiered lord of Hades, sire of avenging furies, billionaire hell king worshipped once with black sheep throats cut, priest's face averted from underground mysteries in a single temple at Eleusis, spring green Persephone nuptial to his inevitable shade, Demeter, mother of Asphodel, weeping dew, her daughter stored in salty caverns under white snow, black hail, gray winter rain, or polar ice, immemorable seasons before fish flew in heaven, before a ram died by the starry bush, before the bull stamped sky and earth, or twins inscribed their memories in cuneiform clay, or crabs flood-washed memory from the skull, or lions sniffed the lilac breeze in Eden, before the great year began turning its 12 signs, ere constellations wheeled for 24,000 sunny years, slowly round their axis in Sagittarius, 167,000 times returning to this night. Radioactive nemesis, were you there at the beginning, black, dumb, tongueless, unsmelling blast of disillusion? I manifest your baptismal word after 4 billion years. Or guess your birthday in earthling night. I salute your dreadful presence, lasting, majestic as the gods. Shabaoth, Jehovah, Astaphaeus, Adonais, Elohim, Yahweh, eon from eon, born ignorant in an abyss of light, Sophia's reflections glittering, thoughtful galaxies, whirlpools of star spume, silver thin as hairs of Einstein. Father Whitman, I celebrate a matter that renders self-oblivion, grand subject that annihilates inky hands and pages, prayers, old orators, inspired immortalities. I begin your chant, open-mouthed, exhaling into spacious sky over silent hills at Hanford, Savannah River, Rocky Flats, Pantex, Burlington, Albuquerque. I yell through Washington, South Carolina, Colorado, Texas, Iowa, New Mexico, where nuclear reactors create a new thing under the sun, where Rockwell war plants fabricate this death stuff trigger in nitrogen baths. Hanger Silas Mason assembles the terrified weapon, secret by 10,000s, and where Manzano Mountain boasts who store its dreadful decay through 240 millennia, while our galaxy spirals around its nebulous core, I enter your secret places with my mind. I speak with your presence. I roar your lion roar with mortal mouth. 1 microgram inspired to 1 lung, 10 pounds of heavy metal dust adrift slow motion over gray Alps, the breadth of the planet. How long before your radiance speeds blight and death to sentient beings? Enter my body or not, I carol my spirit inside you, unapproachable weight. Oh, heavy, heavy element, I vocalize your consciousness to 6 worlds. I chant your absolute vanity. Yea, monster of anger, birthed in fear. Oh, most ignorant matter ever created, unnatural to earth. Delusion of metal empires, destroyer of lying scientists, devourer of covetous generals, incinerator of armies and melter of wars, judgment of judgments, divine wind over vengeful nations, molester of presidents, death, scandal of capital politics. Ah, civilization stupidly industrious, canker, hex on multitude, learned or illiterate, manufactured specter of human reason. Oh, solidified imago of practitioners in the black arts. I dare your reality. I challenge your very being. I publish your cause and effect. I turn the wheel of mind on your 300 tons. Your name enters mankind's ear. I embody your ultimate powers. My oratory advances on your vaunted mystery. This breath dispels your braggart fears. I sing your form at last. Behind your concrete and iron walls, inside your fortress of rubber and translucent silicon shields, in filtered cabinets and baths of lathe oil, my voice resounds through robot glove boxes and ingot cans, and echoes in electric vaults inert of atmosphere. I enter with spirit out loud into your fuel rod drums underground on soundless thrones and beds of lead. Oh, density! This weightless anthem trumpets transcendent through hidden chambers and breaks through iron doors into the infernal room. Over your dreadful vibration, this measured harmony floats audible. These jubilant tones are honey and milk and wine-sweet water poured on the stone block floor. These syllables are barley groats I scatter on the reactor's core. I call your name with hollow vowels. I psalm your fate close by, my breath near deathless ever at your side to spell your destiny. I set this verse prophetic on your mausoleum walls to seal you up eternally with diamond truth. Oh, doomed plutonium. The bard surveys Plutonian history from midnight lit with mercury vapor street lamps till in dawn's early light. He contemplates a tranquil politic spaced out between nations' thought forms proliferating bureaucratic and horrific armed, satanic industries projected sudden with $500 billion strength around the world same time this text is set in Boulder, Colorado, before Front Range of Rocky Mountains, 12 miles north of Rocky Flats nuclear facility in the United States on North America, Western Hemisphere of planet Earth, 6 months and 14 days around our solar system in a spiral galaxy, the local year after dominion of the last god, 1978, completed as yellow haze dawn clouds brighten east, Denver city white below, blue sky transparent, rising empty, deep, and spacious to a morning star high over the balcony. Above some autos sat with wheels to curve downhill from Flatiron's jagged pine ridge. Some mountain meadow sloped to rust-red sandstone cliffs above brick townhouse roofs, as sparrows waked whistling through Marine Street's summer green-leaved trees. This ode to you, O poets and orators to come. You, Father Whitman, as I join your side. You, Congress and American people. You, present meditators, spiritual friends and teachers. You, O master of the diamond arts. Take this wheel of syllables in hand, these vowels and consonants to breath, and take this inhalation of black poison into your heart. Breathe out this blessing from your breast on our creation. Forests, cities, oceans, deserts, rocky flats, and mountains in the 10 directions pacify with this exhalation. Enrich this plutonian ode to explode its empty thunder through earthen thought world. Magnetize this howl with heartless compassion. Destroy this mountain of plutonium with ordinary mind and body speech. Thus empower this mind-guard spirit gone out, gone beyond me, into wakened space, so August 9th, 2 weeks later, a couple of very brief poems called Peace Protest. Middle-aged Ginsberg and Ellsberg taken down the road to the gray-haired sheriff's van. What about Einstein? What about Einstein? Hey, Einstein, come back here. Golden Courthouse. Waiting for the judge, breathing, silent, prisoners, witnesses, police. The stenographer yawns into her palms. And going back to another situation, another scene, one last poem, from 1974, January 13th. This is a poem I read recently, or January 25th in Tel Aviv, for a Peace Now demonstration, which consisted there of 60,000 people, as 400,000 people, you must remember, came out to protest the war in Lebanon. Pardon me?
1 out of every 8 people in the country.
Yeah. The Peace Now movement is very large in Israel, much larger than folk here realize, much larger than the anti-Vietnam War movement in America was. So this was a statement on the Israeli situation. Yahweh and Allah battle. Yahweh with atom bomb. Allah cuts the throat of infidels. Yahweh's armies beat down the neighboring tribes. Will Red Sea waters close and drown the armies of Allah? Israel's tribes worshiping the golden calf. Moses broke the tablets of the law. Zalman Schachter, the Lubavitcher Rabbi, what do you say? Stone commandments broken on the ground. Sufi Sam, what do you say? Till the prophet's companions danced circled round the synagogue in Maya Sharim while Jews davened bearded electric inside. Both gods terrible, awful, Yahweh, Allah. Both hook-nosed gods, circumcised. Yahweh, Allah, which unreal, which the stronger illusion, which has the stronger army, which God gives the most frightening command? What God maintained his egohood in the Garden of Eden? Which be willing to be nameless? Which willing to re-enter the abyss of light? Yea, let Israel's tribes wander back to tin camps at cold Europe's walls? Yea, let the million Palestinians sit in desert shanty towns with tin cups? I am a Jew, cries Allah, Buddha, circumcised, snake sneaking an apple back to Eden, alien, wanderer, caller of the great call. What prophet born on this ground bound me eternally to Palestine, circled by armies, tanks, droning bomber motors, radar, electric computers? What mind directed Stern Gang, Irgun, Al-Fatah, Black September? Meyer Lansky supplied the guns? Nixon, Shah, gangsters, Premier, One-Eyed General Diane? Golda Meir and Kissinger bound me with arms. Hitler and Stalin sent me here. Weizmann and Ben Gurion sent me here. Nasser and Sadat sent me here. Arafat sent me here. Messiah sent me here. God sent me here. Buchenwald sent me here. Vietnam sent me here. Milai sent me here. Lidice sent me here. My mother sent me here. I was born here in Israel, an Arab, circumcised. My father had a coffee shop in Jerusalem. One day the soldiers came and told me, walk down the road, my hands up, walk away, leave my house, business forever. The Israelis sent me here. Solomon's temple, the pyramids, and Sphinx sent me here. Yahweh and Allah sent me here. Abraham will take me to his bosom. Muhammad will guide me to paradise. Christ sent me here to be crucified. What'll wipe us all out and destroy the world? The New York Times and Cairo editorialist Haikal sent me here. Commentary and Palestine Review sent me here. The International Zionist Conspiracy sent me here. Syrian politicians sent me here. Heroic pan-Arab nationalists sent me here. They're sending armies to my side. The Americans and Russians are sending bombing planes, tanks. Chinese, Egyptian, Syrians help me battle for my righteous house, my soul's dirt, my spirit's body, my body's boundaries, my self's territory, my Zionist homeland, my Palestinian inheritance. The capitalist, communist, and third world people's republics, dictatorships, police states, socialisms, and democracies are all sending deadly weapons to my aid. I shall triumph over the enemy, maintain my separate identity, proud history evermore, defend our own bodies here, this holy land, this hill, Golgotha, never forget, never relinquish, inhabit throughout eternity, under Allah, Christ, Yahweh, forever, one God. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, La ilaha, La ilaha. Oi. Ah. Who. Oi. Ah, who? Shalom, Shanti, Salam.
Okay, this is a little bit later. This is a little bit out of order. Won't go through. Well, for those of you, how many do not? Do you want me to tell the story of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is nostalgia.
Okay. Swiftly. I want to get to the end part is the good part where we get to the train. So I'll race through a little bit to that. But to explain what happened here, it was to be a one-night occupation on a Saturday. Going through Saturday night, then Sunday morning there was to be a rally of some sort in town, in Denver. So people, they had vehicles and everything set up for that. But some of us felt that it would be a better action if we waited till Monday until it was the workers' camp and so forth. That was fairly controversial, but a number of the people on the tracks wanted to do it. And these were people who had sat through, of the 200 out of that large crowd, who stayed for the whole night. I'm sorry, 200 stayed that night. It was the coldest rain I have ever experienced. I was out a lot in the rain, out in the field, and I've never been in a rain that cold. We woke up that morning, the next morning, and found there was still, 35 or so left in the morning. I was very impressed by those people. And I thought personally, these are people I'd like to see a longer action here. Tough enough. Well, we did stay, and the only weather stuff we had was this plastic we had. I forget what that was for. We made a little tent out of railroad tie. Japanese had brought a solar energy sign, which went below our flag. Some other people had come from Savannah River on the route that the nuclear material comes from, in yellow barrels like that, to show people along the way. So that's one of the yellow plutonium marked type barrels. This is one of our meetings. I was the only one who shaved. Everybody was very impressed. See, in those days, people didn't shave.
They all had long hair.
But I did. For the Marines, I was shaved in the field. After a day like this, I think this was close to the last day before the first arrest.
That's the Random One Affinity Group flag.
What's that?
Random One Affinity Group, that's the other flag.
Oh, right.
Random
Okay.
can't stand them.
So this is the day that I think this is the morning, as you'll see here, all the, yeah, this is just before the snow. These are out of order a bit. This is the hole in the wall gang here. This the snow, as I say, after this nice warm day, the first snow melted, sleet melted, we had this nice warm day, then the snow hit again. And as you'll see, I woke up in the morning, this is what it looked like looking out of the little tent I was in. This tent collapsed shortly thereafter. All the tents collapsed. We had kind of had it at this point, at which point we were saved shortly in a bit. That's our food that morning. What's this? That's Steve. Okay.
No. Gary Woolen. It's Gary Woolen.
Gary Woolen, yeah, not Steve. This was it was a Friday, I think. This is Friday. We've been on the track since Monday. So a lot has been happening. On this particular day, this was the day we thought it's going to be hard to go beyond this.
Your food didn't spoil.
No. And if you see the lights in the past, the Mounties, the Marines, or whatever, we were saved. The police had come to arrest us. This is our tent. It was arrested. It really was very, very quick. Because that would have been, the next night would have been a hard one. And of course, had they known that it was going to snow like that, they would have waited one more day. But I know what got it. Remember this? Somebody had just said, we're going to stay until Carter comes. Carter was coming for an environmental conference. So we've been keeping him in the dark as to how long we stayed. We didn't know. So we said, we'll stay till Carter comes. We said, that's it. Get these guys off. And as they told us later, had they known it was going to snow like this, they would have waited one more day. So there were the police telling us now, you have 10 minutes with bullhorns, 10 minutes, or we will arrest you. So we had a meeting, and in this situation, unlike anything back in Boulder here, the troop force was able to come to consensus in whatever time we had available. It was a minute and a half, and we still do that. If we have 10 hours available, in 10 hours we come to consensus. But on this occasion we had 10 minutes. What do? We said, well, let's build a snowman. We thought we've got to leave some sign of our Max.
How was Max?
With the frozen air, there's Bush. Yeah. They're building a snowman. It was a Hiroshima cloud. We figured the train couldn't come to a snowman. That would be un-American.
It's like a nuclear mushroom.
That was, you see what the air was like? It was really unusual weather. We were standing on the tracks, there's Ellen in the middle there, and Kathy Nixon. Now the police tore down our tent, tore down everything. This is before handcuffs, you know. Department of Energy buses, you know, some of you may not know. I'll bet there are people in this room in 1988, whatever this has come to be, who are not yet aware that all of our nuclear weapons are made by the Department of Energy. Now, honestly, how many people did not know that? Come on, let's see real hands.
You read the sign next to Rocket Class recently?
No.
Space Systems Division.
Oh, and of course, there are a lot of people who don't know. Let's try this one. That every nuclear weapon the U.S. has ever had was been designed by an American university. One university. The University of California. Okay. How many people did not know that? Now you could be at UC and not know that. New generations roads coming, they don't know there's a bomb factory. Anyway, here tonight, Martin in the back. So, I remember it had now been snowing. There were now 36 inches of snow. And it was the biggest snowfall in 100 years. And I woke up about 5 in the morning saying, thinking to myself, at 4 in the morning, I think, the train still hasn't come. We've got to get back on the tracks. They'll be sending that train in. We're not there. We've got to get there. I phoned everybody, got people out of bed, phoned all over. We found somebody who owned a ski shop that would get us in on skis and snowshoes and get us in right now. We arranged it. We got about 6 or 7 people who would get out there on skis and snowshoes. We went to the front door, opened it, and found these 36 inches of snow. Not one of us could move. We got nowhere that day. No, nothing moved anywhere. We couldn't get together at all. Occupied territory, as you point out, this line is a linear, this is where they're waiting for us. We went by them to their amazement. Our job is not to occupy territory, as Lawrence said, you know, in Mesopotamia. Our job is to cut a train line, and the train line can be cut anywhere, linear. We went, this is a little later. Yeah, we went, this is the no trespassing. This is a later arrest.
We jumped out of the back.
We jumped backwards, this is a later arrest. But, no, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's
This is the day we got on, I think.
Yeah, the later arrest one.
But this was when they came, though, to get us. So,
The third didn't pass over.
I think this is the
Second.
day we went out.
Second.
Because they came to arrest us, and once again, this was really impressive. What's the policeman's name?
Sam.
Sam said again, 10 minutes, you know, or you're arrested. And again, 10 minutes. You don't have to be on the track. We can be next to the track and wait till the train comes. We really arrived, people got very good decisions very quickly. So we moved off the track. He said, if you stay on the track, you'll be arrested. We got off the track. And he said, we'll wait till the train comes, then we'll get on the track. Everything packed and everything, which of course was confiscated. What was there's a mountaineering place here that outfits great expeditions. Then some people then were saying, by the way, I remember I thought it was very kooky at the time, that we shouldn't be under those high power lines. They were right. So we're going through, the Butch and Max had stayed behind on this occasion, I recall. But it turned out that we'd forgotten our flags. So Butch turns up, joined us, it looked like, you know, Spirit of 76. And imagine it. Now he's telling, this is what he was telling us, 10 minutes, no. So we moved off the tracks. We had a sort of a teach-in. I remember the first time I revealed a lot about the war plans, and the first time I talked about it, that I worked on when I was in the Pentagon. We had a little, well, people scouted out an area for us to go to. So finally somebody said, there's Jay, that they found a very good area over a little ways away. I forget how they picked it out. And we set out across the snow. These nice pictures. Okay, so we were now making a snow fort. The new place where we set out. It turned out we learned, somebody told us this, but the reason it's called Rocky Flats is that the rocks are flat from the wind. And this particular night, we got, people said, what was it, 60 mile an hour winds, came later. But not at this particular moment, later in the night. So this is Jay, who had come to us from Abalone, right? Isn't that what it's called? It was clamshell. Clamshell means from the other, Seabrook.
Mars.
So we're building forts against the snow houses. We actually built igloos against the wind. Somebody brought up snow shovels. In the afternoon, it was fairly warm. The wind hadn't really started yet.
It's the only people in Colorado.
What's that?
Only people in Colorado.
Yeah. Okay, now the wind had started, and that was a hell of a wind. So Jay and I were in a tent together, and we spent the night holding, our tent pole snapped. A lot of the tents came down. Our tent pole snapped, or came apart. We spent the night holding it together and trying to put it back together. It was this terrific wind that was going by. And at one point, we had this thing U-shaped against the wind, and the open part of the U went toward Rocky Flats, toward the plant. And at one point I said, well, I'll go outside and I will hold it from the top, and you can work it down from the bottom. So I went outside with this leather coat on that I had, and the wind picked me up like a sail and moved me across the ice. This was not frozen, all this stuff was frozen. And I could not stop. I was sailing across toward the plant. That was a little worrisome because by this time they'd gotten kind of used to us and to our nonviolence. And Sam was always saying, these are real nice people, you know, we like to deal with them. They're really nice and they're nonviolent. And we won't harm them in any way. There's no need to harm them unless they go near the fence, in which case we'll have to shoot them. So I was sailing toward this fence and I started yelling to the wind, I can't stop! I finally got down on my knees and I crawled back to this thing. Incidentally, I should, in between here, this was of course after our first arrest, and it turned out that the arrest order said two things, that they are occupying a railroad site essential to the operation of Rocky Flats, as it were. And they are obstructing the normal operations of Rocky Flats. And so, on the one hand, that gave us tremendous credibility all of a sudden, because the press, somehow, for that reason, in '78, I don't know why so late, but they had believed what the DOE had put out. It was an unused track. And when they had to admit that this was a used track and that they're waiting for it, which we've been saying all along, it undercut them enormously at that point. The other thing was, from then on, when anybody ever asked us, what are you doing out there? We just read the arrest order to them. We are obstructing the normal operations of Rocky Flats. All right, now it's getting such a windy and horrible. And it was coming along. At this moment, I believe it's moving. And the police aren't out yet. It came along rather slowly. And I don't think any of us thought, because we hadn't had any time to discuss, we sat down the train, flags went up, I'm taking the picture there in the middle. Jay, so the red-haired guy here tonight who saw in the pictures, was in front there with his head on one rail and his feet on the other. I used to tell this story that we all got behind him, but they corrected me today. I had that wrong. As he remembers it, there were people sitting there and he got in front of them and he lay down because he didn't want to watch the train coming. So he was there, we were all behind him. The train was coming at us and I, for one at least, was wondering two questions. One, not that they want to hit us, but might they want to play chicken? And of course, that wasn't so funny in retrospect because my now close friend, Brian Wilson, was sitting on a track a few months ago in Concord Naval Station. And he had his stepson there and his family there, and he had not spent 1 minute thinking about or discussing what to do if the train didn't stop, because it had never occurred to him that the train would not stop. It is now known, by the way, that the train had orders, if there's going to be a confrontation, quote, it might as well be now. They ran it through 3 times the legal speed for the base, 5 miles an hour. They ran it through at 16 to 20 miles an hour, speeding up as it approached him, playing chicken, waiting for him to jump off. But Brian wasn't the guy who was going to jump off, and there were some other people like that here, like Jay, for example. So we thought they might try to play chicken. And the other one was, supposing they want to stop, I asked myself in the minutes we had here, have they practiced stopping? Do they know how long it will take to stop? So it was an interesting while, actually, as that came, but it did stop about 30 feet away. Silence, no whistles, no hoots, no nothing. And suddenly, out from this train came the police. Absolutely silent scene, which looked very familiar actually at the time. And I don't know if this will ring a bell to you, but at the time it did to people. I was trying to think what this scene reminded me of. And then I remembered it's a scene in Butch Cassidy where the train stops in the distance, so far away you can't hear anything, and then the super posse on their horses leap out of the boxcar silently in the distance. And later the police told us they were all staying in the boxcar. They were in there to avoid getting their feet wet going through the snow. Earlier, they said, this is just like Butch Cassidy. So we all had theirs for us.
Good photos.
Oh, I was sitting there thinking, and then we had television there with us. How could they be doing this? And I was clicking away thinking, look at the sky, look at the blue, look at the white of the snow.
Dan, who was taking these photos?
I took these, and of course others took. Joe Daniels had a lot of good black and white pictures. And there's a famous color one that somebody took. The policeman who took me, I remember, we went out, and so I said, how was it, what do you think about this or something? He said, well, he said, I'll just say this. I used to live around here, and I don't anymore. That's all I'll say. He said he had the picture. It turned out the police were very friendly to us. And at night, when there was one on duty and there wasn't anybody else to be seen, they would ask us individually for our banners, our armbands, buttons, and whatever. So when we went into jail after that, we took handfuls of this stuff to give the police. This is later now. We're now set up a little. We had our post box and the TV and on tracks. I think this is August 9th or 6th. Yeah, that's pretty much. And that's my older son, Robert, who's head of Orbis Press now, editor-in-chief of the Marino Press. My daughter, well, my son and I celebrated my youngest son's first birthday on the tracks by getting arrested. And while we were in jail, and my son during that period fasted for 16 days, he'd just come out. My daughter got out of school in jail, and she came and sat on the tracks while we were in jail. Martin just reminded me that for this birthday, we celebrated, he had a red cheese. I was just telling my son, this year started while he was a baby.
Gouda cheese.
Baby. What?
It's a Gouda cheese.
Well, I told him, I said it was your favorite color, red. It was still his favorite color. Still red, he's very suspicious. How did you know it was my favorite color then? I said, it was red. We had a candle that would not blow out in this wind, the kind of keep it away. I said, just like the Rocky Flats Street Forest. We offered some to Sam before we got arrested. That's with my son. As we on the tracks, so the day, and there's Martin, the day of the birthday. A point of this is, of course, May 12th is coming up again. My son is now 11 years old, so things have been moving along. But as Robert, who had just come to the tracks the night before, so he hadn't seen the tracks yet. He arrived in town. We went right out because it's our birthday. It's Michael's birthday. That's what's celebrated. So as we were handcuffed together, sitting next to each other, and he's going back in the bus. And he was looking out at the tracks, and he said something then, which he repeated later to the judge, Goldberg, when he was trial. He looked at the tracks and he said, you know, there should have been Germans on the tracks at Auschwitz. And there weren't. And as he said in the trial, when he heard, he said, Rocky Flats is the Auschwitz of our time. A lot of you weren't here at that time. You know the end of the story. There were people on the tracks every day then, till the end of that year, till the last day of December that year. Every train that came through had to arrest people. And as a matter of fact, let me add one thing. I mentioned something this Rocky Mountain News person asked me today. She said, after all, she said the arms race is going on, isn't it? And it was something, people were also commenting about Judge Goldberger. So I told her what Judge Goldberger asked us. When my son and I were in jail together at that point, Goldberger at one point, it was my third arrest, and his first. He brought us up in handcuffs from the jail, kind of a slightly weird thing. As those of you who've been in Jeff County Jail, it's not the worst, but it's not the best jail. It was condemned a long time. So we come up to one of these condemned cells into this quite nice room, and he takes the handcuffs taken off, and he asks, would we like tea? It's a little bizarre, kind of this cockroachy shell. And what he wanted to ask was, I want to know, he said, why are you still doing this? My third arrest. He said, you've got what you want. Somebody said, quoted him today, is saying the same thing about our actions right now, right? He said they've done this before, they've had their trial, you know. But we didn't listen to our answers. He said, why are you still doing this? Why my third arrest? He said, well, the trains, you know, the trains are still running. The bombs are still being made. That's what we're trying to stop. And he said, but you don't stop the trains. The trains always go through. And I said, but not without arresting us. They can't go through invisibly anymore. They can't go through with the implication that everybody in this country consents to what's going on. To get those trains through now, they have to arrest Americans. And that's the power we have. That's what we're doing. So I said to the woman today, in those days we were demonstrating in 1978, when very little had been heard about nuclear weapons since the Test Ban Treaty of 1963. And we were demonstrating that there were Americans who were on the tracks, as my son put it, to this death factory. What has changed is the movement. The arms race has not ended. What is clear now to everybody in the world is that arms race is now being pursued by our officials against the will of the great majority of the American people. The freeze has shown that. Every poll has shown that. It's happening just as Vietnam was happening for 10 years, 8 of which, or 7 at least 7 of those years, from 68 on, were against the will of the majority of the people. She said, you know, have you learned realism? That was another question. She said, I said, listen, when I copied the Pentagon Papers, it was 69. When I was on trial, it was 71. In 69, the war had 6 years to go. So by 78, I wasn't under the impression that these things ended fast. He said, but the fact that the majority of the American people were against that war did mean eventually it ended. Eventually, Congress took the money away, as is now beginning to happen. Some of you heard me earlier, for the anti-satellite weapons, the MX, the Contra aid, and so forth. Congress is using its power to take the money away. So as I said earlier, that's what I said to him again, the country, I said, yes, the D5 and so forth go on, but the country is on those tracks, and majority will did make itself effective eventually. And that's why we're still here. So up and down, you know, we talk about 5-year plans. I was just thinking, when you asked me earlier, we did 10 years, you know, 10 minutes, it was quite quick. I could have put it in a way of unexpected things. As I said, things were looking good in 78, really 79 for the start of the movement. In 80, 81, we were at the bottom of the sea. I meant to contrast 80 and 88 now because we have all these people who are backing some of the proposals we made. But in between, we had the largest demonstration in history, which was a very innovative for once demonstration. By the way, I didn't mean to suggest there's nothing can be done that can affect this if the demonstrations, multi-issue that do speak to the issues of blacks directly, or when we bring out a broader, as opposed to the single issue demonstration. And this huge million-person demonstration in New York, with the 1,300 arrests at Livermore the next week and so forth. All right, that's in 82. In 84, we have, and of course, these enormous demonstrations in Europe in 83. I was in a lot of those against the Persian. And you have the KAL shoot down, the Persians go in, the movement falls apart in Europe. In 84, things look rather good at the beginning of 84, actually. Mondale is committed to our, again, to ending testing and to a freeze and various things, and it looked as though he had a chance at the beginning of the year. And then a landslide hits us, meaning that half of the people, of the 80% who said that they were for a freeze, half of them must have voted for rape, showing that the priorities of the American people were not priorities for rape, even though they agreed with us in some. So 84 was a very depressing time, in late 84 and 85. Then Gorbachev came in. And now let me get to your point right now. The fact is, Gorbachev is presenting an extraordinary opportunity. He is presenting, we shouldn't really be discussing these problems, and I find they often are discussed as if it was something we should handle in America somewhere. The fact is that Gorbachev is the one who has changed the potential in the world right now. And I think with a president who wanted to end the arms race, really wanted, and had the public and Congress behind him to do that. This has never existed. That we had that combination. For some years now, we've had a public ready to end the arms race. We obviously haven't had a president, and I don't think any of the candidates running us, except Jesse Jackson, are that committed either. But a president who wanted, and certainly not Bush or Dole, a president who wanted to end the arms race could end the arms race. He could do astounding things within months in his first year, not just in testing and interventions in lots of parts of the world, enormous cuts in the world, sorts of things are facing us as possibilities with this situation in the Soviet Union that simply were not worth dreaming about 5 years ago. about 3 years ago. But now where are we? Well, the answer is, it's far from, it seems to be the odds, they say, are against a democratic win if the economy stays good. These are the kinds of things you have to figure. Unless, even though the polls suggest that Dukakis could beat Bush. In fact, Dukakis-Jackson could beat Bush, or Jackson-Dukakis could beat Bush. That's what polls actually say. But, so that's encouraging. I think what that means is that at least we have a chance. But could a Democratic president alone meet Gorbachev, if that's all you have, who said he would do it? Well, Carter didn't have Gorbachev. But Carter really said he would end the arms race. He said he would abolish nuclear weapons or move toward it. And he did nothing, folks. A way to describe the current situation is that the Democrats are now committed to every one of the Carter weapons, by which I refer to sea-launched cruise missiles, air-launched cruise missiles, the stealth bomber, the MX, the D5, every first strike weapon except SDI, including ASAP, was a Carter weapon that we got from this guy who was going to abolish weapons. He got nowhere. He was absolutely rolled over by the system, even though I think he was rather sincere. There is one other ingredient that's new, and that is a public movement that has existed, in which we were on the ground floor, but then after Rocky Flats, it went way down. But it wasn't lost. Our movement continued to grow rather steadily. As I said earlier, it was just that the counter movement was growing much faster. But then we've continued to grow. We are a majority movement now. That is why Democrats, other than Jesse Jackson, were saying they would end testing. They even said something that I'm sure none of you heard them say, but they actually have all said it. Every one of the candidates, except Gore, he differed on this one, said that they're in office, they would declare a moratorium on the testing of ballistic missiles so long as the Soviets were not tested.
said, hell, you're the best worker we've ever had. They offered him jobs. Yeah, you know, like I'm really comfortable with Georgia.
The number of AIDS cases. Well, that's how that works.
guys here?
Hi, how you doing? And I was so stupid. I thought that meant to turn them all into Christians.
I like to express my feeling today. I'm very glad to see all of you. I know I could clearly remember about 10 years ago. I came to Colorado like a people of truth force. They are doing occupying on the railroad tracks. And I could see, that time, I could see spirit of people. People could change this country with non-violence movement. Since that, I have been participating many with peace movement. Always reminds me about truth force. Truth force encouraged me my activity keeping on. And truth force, that is not only name of organization. Truth force is a power. Truth force is a Mahatma Gandhi study. Satyagraha means people believed in truth. So if we really touched with truth, that power effect to one to another. That is, I believe, power of non-violence. I'm very glad to be here today because I could see many old faces. We are still doing. We are based on same beginning. We could start from here to the future. So I'm very glad to see all of you. Thank you very much.
Retrospective on what the last 10 years have meant. The weather was about the same 10 years ago, but the weather has changed in this country over 10 years. And where Rocky Flats, most people thought was a nuclear power production facility 10 years ago, now not only metropolitan Denver and Colorado, but the rest of the world knows what Rocky Flats is and what it does. And it's thanks to folks like all of you here today and the people that have gone through the demonstrations here over the last 10 years that have taken the message about the madness of nuclear weapons and nuclear weapons production. They've taken it throughout the rest of the country, so there isn't a plant, there isn't a weapons facility, there isn't a weapons system, whether it's the Trident or an aircraft carrier, that doesn't meet protests somewhere in this country and in Europe. And that's the way it should be. That this madness isn't allowed to continue without aware people actively protesting and involving their friends and their neighbors in building awareness, because that's what it will take to stop this arms race. And we've seen that over 10 years. We've finally seen an INF treaty that was forced against Reagan's better nature because he needed something to make up for the bad things that happened at Iran-Contra. He had to do that to save some face. And it's because of the consensus that it built in this country. The other is that we've seen Congress 3 times vote a resolution for a halt to all funding for nuclear weapons testing. We'll see that more in the future as long as we all stay involved Hopefully it isn't another 10 years before this plant is closed and decommissioned. But if it takes 10 years, we'll be here and we'll do it.
excuse us for coming through?
And I know why I'm pushing you too, but it's a good kind of push. It's a friendly
You know
push.
why he's doing it, don't you?
We're friends.
You
I feel that way.
understand.
I really do.
You understand.
We love you, Joel.
I love you too.
Wish you guys to bring enough guys next time.
Sure.
Make sure you give them room and make sure they don't feel like they're being crowded.
Yeah. Don't look threatening.
Yeah.
All right, Guthrie. Right.
Smile for us, Guthrie. Thank you.
See, you don't have to do it.
How nice it is to be here again, and what a good week I've had. And I will not be here next Sunday in body, but I'm always here every Sunday in spirit. And there are some Sundays I walk all the way out here in spirit. I don't know if everybody knows, we walked out, we had a gathering here at the West Gate today. There was probably about, I don't know, I guess 100 people here a couple of hours ago. Then we walked down to the tracks, and I've always been amazed at how we kind of improv things. And we were walking down, and we were supposed to go down 72, instead we went down 93. We walked down to the tracks, and about 50 or so people got onto the railroad tracks, and we sat down and hung out for a while. And then some people I knew that we had talked about something brought out an orange tent. We started to set it up, and it was nicknamed Wedge 2, which was the new generation from the wedge we had on the tracks originally down on the Mother's Day occupation. And 5 people got arrested today, which is good. And I wish I could have been one, but you know, there in spirit I am again. But I want you to know how important it is for the world that we come here, that you come here every Sunday. It is really important. One is enough. Really, one person out here is enough. But the more, the better. But I'm just so encouraged to know that 10 years has gone by, and people have come and gone, and you know, we don't always get to stay here, but the spirit of all the people who've been out here is here today and every Sunday. And I think about Marge and John Catalini. Two people who John really thought he had it. I mean, I used to talk with him. He was a very nice man. He was about ready to retire and have the good life. And I guess in a way that's part of the big tragedy of Rocky Flats is that it does that to the workers first, and then it does it to the big us. And so I wanted to tell you that I really appreciate you guys doing this. It's important to keep doing this. Even though it may not seem much, and even though it may be raining or snowing or whatever, just keep coming out here. And the water, the river will never dry up. It'll just keep flowing.